Hello and welcome to School for Sleuths. My name is Aidan from Mysteries Ahoy, and in this podcast we quickly go back over concepts that we talked about in the main episodes of Get a Clue Dad in more detail, giving you a little bit more background so that you can dip into these to find out more about a topic without having to listen back to the whole episode. So we recently recorded an episode about the book First Class Murder by Robin Stevens, one of the Wells and Wong series. And in our recording, we discussed how it was an example of a locked room mystery, which is also sometimes called an impossible crime. So the question is, what is a locked room mystery? Well, a locked room mystery is an example of a mystery where instead of being focused on who did the crime, we are more interested in the question of how it was done. These are mysteries in which something happens that appears to be impossible, as the name suggests. The best examples, or the easiest to understand examples, are something happens in a space that no one could have gotten into. So perhaps someone enters a locked room, the door is sealed, no one could have got inside because there are no other entrances, and yet someone is perhaps stabbed behind the door. How could it happen? It appears to be physically impossible, and the only solutions we can think of are perhaps supernatural ones. Other examples of common locked room problems are vanishings from within a space, cases where you have no footprints around an area where someone must have walked in or out. That usually happens when there's snow or sometimes wet sand. And then you get things that appear to break the laws of physics. Perhaps someone levitates, or someone is seen in two different places at once by reliable witnesses. The key with an impossible crime is that the viewer should believe that the results could only have happened in a way that is supernatural. And then we get the application of the rational. We come to realize that there is a way it could have happened after all. So locked room mysteries are a subcategory of crime fiction or detective fiction. There are, however, some TV shows and movies that have used this storytelling style. Famously, there was a TV show called Jonathan Creek, which ran for a number of years, in which a magician solves apparently impossible crimes. And then the more recent TV show that's still going on, Death in Paradise, often features impossible crimes or locked room murders. So let me give you a few examples of some locked room or impossible crimes that I think represent really good first steps, in addition to first-class murder. One of them can be found in the book The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, the first short story collection to feature that character. The story The Adventure of the Speckled Band is a classic of this style of story, even though there are some issues with its solution, namely that an element of it doesn't really exist. However, I think it gives you many of the key points of this style of storytelling, and this was a hugely influential story. Many people have done similar works or works inspired by it. The other thing that I think makes this a great starting point is that Conan Doyle is really readable, and he's readable for people of all ages. I think that this story, which is structured like an adventure, contains lots of exciting action, and it has been frequently adapted for younger readers. Another book that works for younger readers would be Enid Blyton's book, The Mystery of the Disappearing Cat. As its title suggests, this is a book about a cat that vanishes, and one person is blamed for this happening. However, he's innocent. The question is, who else could have done it? Because it would be impossible for anyone else to have pulled it off. The final book I'm going to mention is a book for older readers. It is from the master of the locked room mystery, and it is The Black Spectacles, which is also known as The Problem of the Green Capsule by Dickson Carr. Now, Carr was the master of the locked room mystery. While not everything he wrote was a locked room mystery, some of his greatest works fall within that category. This book was really important to me. It was my first ever Dickson Carr, and even today I've revisited it and find it still holds up. It's a really cleverly worked case, and it has a few really fun and inventive ideas. So those are my suggestions for locked room or impossible crimes. On our next episode of Get a Clue Dad, we're going to be talking about the book Belly Up by Stuart Gibbs. I hope to see you there.